Hi everybody, I would love to show you today how to use a very common weed, probably in your backyard, or a weed that you see on many walks and hikes that you are on, how you can bring it to your life in so many different ways. I want to show you eight ways, how to bring it to your life, so to really create this incredible culinary and topical healing herb that is so common. So the reason why I'm talking about herbs today is because, well, number one, I'm an herbalist, but I've always had a lot of interest in herbs and plants. And we're doing this in conjunction with a clearance sale of our online program called Herbs for Balance. And, it's a program that I developed several years ago. And so the clearance sale is basically all about enabling you to own the program. Instead of paying $297, we have the sale going on for $37. And apart from getting access to the full online program with all the demos and videos and lectures and handouts, you would also get the recipe book, which is right here with me. And you're gonna get this beautiful poster that always hangs in my kitchen on the wall. And Cheryl is showing me to the better angle. No, this way, okay? We have a bit of a glare from the light. So this is a poster that shows you what are the different herbs you can use to support your digestion, liver, blood sugar levels, and then the different hormonal imbalances that you have. Herbs and foods. And I have it in my kitchen so that, for example, if I feel like my liver needs a little bit of TLC, I'll just look at the herbs here and make a quick tea out of it. So you guys, this is never gonna get better than this. 37 bucks. So this is 88% discount basically. You're saving $260 until stock lasts, or 21st of May, the promotion expires. And so we have limited books in print. So, if it's something that interests you, then I'll suggest take advantage of that as quickly as possible. So let's talk about dandelion, because that's one of the herbs that is very heavily used in the book. And it is such an incredible herb. I just think that, so hugely underestimated, right? Because it's so common. Sometimes, we perceive as something that's being brought in from Peru or the Amazon jungle to be of huge value, where sometimes things in our backyard might not seem as exotic and interesting, but they can be, if not more, potent than something that's being brought in from somewhere else. So I wanna dissect and show you 8 different applications of dandelion. And we're gonna be talking about the dandelion leaf, how you can use it. We're gonna be talking about the flower, and we're gonna be talking about roots, which I couldn't dig it out from my backyard because the soil here is so hardened. Right now it's cold again, that I just couldn't get it out, but I have some dried dandelion roots. I'm gonna tell you how you can use these 3 parts of the plant in various applications. We're gonna be making some salads and teas and oil infusions. And so, but before we do that, I wanna just read you some of my notes from my class when I was going through school. We were doing profile of herbs, and I wanna give you an idea of just how incredibly powerful this herb is, just by sharing with you some of the research that we know about dandelion today. And this specifically applies to the whole plant. And so the Latin name is Taraxacum officinale. It promotes detoxification, bile flow. In case you don't know, bile is so essential for, for fat metabolism, but also for evacuation of metabolized estrogen, so those dirty estrogens. It reduces liver congestion, it relieves jaundice and constipation because it's a bitter. So we're gonna talk about that later. It can help with colitis, which is inflammation of the bladder. It reduces infections and stimulates the immune system, including it helps with acne, tonsillitis, mastitis, appendicitis, UTIs, herpes simplex. It relieves eczema, and so that's what we're going to be making a topical application today. Reduces lymph congestion, restores and protects the liver, pancreas and spleen. It promotes lactation for women who are having a baby. It can help with wheezing and coughing. I mean, isn't that just that itself so powerful? The other thing is to remember that sometimes in plants, there are some generic qualities that apply to the entire plant, but then you might have, there's a slight difference between the leaf and the root. The similarity is that both are very strong bitters, and that's gonna get your digestion going. It's gonna support the liver in a huge way. However, the leaves are a little bit more efficacious towards the kidney, so it actually is a kidney cleanser too. And it's also a diuretic. So in French, dandelion is called pissenlit, right? Pisser in French means piss, to piss. And so it really is a pisser, it makes you piss. But because it makes you urinate more, that's why it helps with kidney detoxification. So the leaves tend to have a little bit more efficacy towards the kidneys, where the roots, so like for example here I have roasted dandelion roots, right? Because like I said, if you have a good shovel and a strong, maybe man in your house, or you're strong enough to dig it out, then do so. These are roasted, but the fresh dandelion roots are perfectly great to use as well. They're hugely beneficial for, like I said, gallbladder support, bile production, and liver. So huge. A few contraindications before I go on is large doses can cause loose stool, heartburn, and nausea. Don't use with acute gastric inflammation because it is a gastric acid stimulant. Also, I would say if somebody has got a lot of problems with ulcers, then don't do that. Some people with IBS and SIBO won't tolerate it because the root itself and the leaf also contain inulin, which is a prebiotic. So if you can tolerate it, that's amazing. But if you have problems with SIBO, then I do not recommend it, or just try it and see whether it works for you or not. One of the beautiful things about the flowers is, just look at that bowl. I just collected them from outside my house, and it just the way touching and feeling them, it just feels like they have this. They've just collected all the goodness of the sun, and they are just right there in a bowl right in front of you. And so the flowers are not as well researched as the leaves and the roots, and so there's not a lot of research I can tell you about it. But we can also, talk about what these flowers have historically been used traditionally, right? And a lot of times herbs are used in a lot of traditions, and it's only years after that research catches up and going like, oh yeah, now we know that meditation can blah, 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 can do this, and meditation's been around for, like 2,000 years, right? So I feel like it's a little bit similar with these. So one of the most amazing things about the flowers is that they are very high in polyphenols. And so if you know the benefits of green tea, for example, right, this is one of the things about that's where we have polyphenols are right here, which are a form of, which are going to be hugely anti-inflammatory. And so one of the things that this is the first application I want to talk to you about. So we're going to have 8 applications we want to use dandelion for. And the first application I want to talk to you about is, let's just start off with the leaves since I'm talking about that. One of the, because it's so highly anti-inflammatory, one of the things that you can, first of all, you can add it to your salads, okay? Isn't it just a beautiful one? If you feel like it's a little bit too vegetal for you, then what you can do is just pick the petals, and then you can get rid of the sepal here and just use the petals just like that and sprinkle that around your salad, okay? Let me do a quick tasting so I can define the taste for you here. Cheryl, would you like to try? It's part of the job. Well, I'll let you, let me just pick a fresh one for you so you can pick it up. And tell me, what do you feel? I might be biased because, I'm this crazy herbalist, but let me tell you, it doesn't have any strong particularly taste. It doesn't. It really doesn't. It's pretty mellow. In fact, it does have like a sweetness quality to it, right? What do you think? Well, how would you define it?
No, it does have a sweetness. It's not strong at all.
Right? Yeah, it's very different from the leaf. The leaf is a different animal altogether. But would you put that on your salad? I mean, is it going to spoil your salad? Definitely not.
Surprisingly, yes.
Right. So, I'm always putting Cheryl here a little bit in a spot, but she's a good sport. So Cheryl is behind the camera with a mask on, and she's helping me with getting the whole place set up for filming. Okay, so what we're gonna do first, so the first application is sprinkle that on top of salads, right? Second application I wanna talk to you today about is, let's make an infusion, an oil infusion. Because of the anti-inflammatory qualities of a dandelion, you can easily infuse an oil with it and then use it topically. So whenever you have psoriasis, eczema, whenever there is, you have a scratch and it needs to be soothed and the skin feels really inflamed. Again, a rosacea they can lessen the inflammation of the skin. But let me just be very clear that when you're dealing with things like psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, those all of them have an autoimmune component to it. Topical application alone is not going to reverse it completely. It's going to soothe it while you're working on the inside, which is your gut. And a lot of the time is getting off anti-inflammatory inflammatory foods such as gluten, dairy, sugar. Those are some of the big culprits. So, all right, let's get going with our oil infusion. And so if you have a double boiler like this, then it's a really great idea. Then what you can do is put the flowers in here and then submerge it with oil. But I want to just show you even a simpler method in case you don't have that and you don't have the space for yet another piece of equipment in the kitchen. Don't worry about it. All you need is just a simple pot like this. And I have about that much of water in it because we don't want the water to be touching the bowl. And what we're going to do is we're going to be putting the bowl over, oh, that's too much water. It's already touching. When you use too much water, it's basically we want the steam to warm up the whole bowl with the oil and not be touching it because it's just too much heat being transmitted. And then that's what we're gonna burn the oil or burn the flowers in it. So basically the solution, you guys, is really simple. So let me just take this out first and show you the oil part. There's different kinds of oils that you can use. I'm using here, I have some remains of jojoba oil. The reason why jojoba is popular with a lot of herbalists and skincare makers is because it has got a very similar pH to our own skin oil, and so it tends to penetrate straight into your skin much faster than any other oils. I do know, however, a few people who have a sensitivity to jojoba, so if you don't know, just try it out on your skin first and make sure that you tolerate it okay. Now, you can use a different combination of oils. You can use olive oil, you can use avocado oil, you can do melt some coconut oil if you want to use that. What I'm going to be using today is I'm using in a glass castor oil, okay, and jojoba oil combination. The reason why I'm combining these two is because I want the lightness and quick absorption of jojoba, so it makes it light and absorbable. Castor oil on its own is kind of like it doesn't get in that quickly, right? And so, but when you combine it with jojoba, it kind of gets in really quickly into the skin much better. What castor oil does though, it penetrates into the dermis, all the way into the dermis, something that jojoba doesn't do. All the other oils kind of stay on the other layer, which I believe is called hypodermis. And then very few oils, which is castor oil, is the deepest penetrating oil. So that's why, we want to have like the depth, but also with the lightness of the oil. So I'm just using these two. Now, it's really as simple as this. I'm going to put the oil over, and I can't tell you exactly how much, because the whole idea is for you just to use enough oil to submerge the flowers. Now, one thing to remember is that these flowers are going to wither a little bit when the heat is applied, when the oil warms up, and so they're going to shrink quite significantly. So as you can see here, they are covered fairly well, but they are not completely submerged. When we start warming them up, they will get submerged into the oil, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to put it in our pot, start off the heat, okay? And you don't want to be completely, can we see the full thing, Cheryl? Yeah. We don't want to be covering it completely because these are fresh flowers, and so there's going to be a lot of moisture that's going to be, evaporating, right? And so what you want to do is you want to leave it ajar like this, right? And that way, because you don't want the water to be getting into the oil, right? You want the water to kind of evaporate. I'm also going to give it a little bit of a stir just to make sure that all the flowers are submerged. And this is one of the recipes in our book, in our Herbs for Balance book, is to making different oil infusions so that, you can then turn it into a salve. And so in terms of time, you're doing this you want to bring the water up to a boil, and then we're going to reduce it to as little as a simmer as possible. And with herbalism and infusion, slow and long is good, right? So we don't want to be like fast and pressure cook it and like get it out, in an hour. That's not the best product. The best infusion is going to be slow, and if you keep it going for about 24 hours, maybe even 48 hours, that's when you're going to get this beautiful yellow, deep oil that is just gonna burst with vibrancy and healing powers. I also pulled out here, I have some calendula. Many of you have maybe come across calendula. It's a flower that's somewhat similar to dandelion, except that in the middle part it's dark and it's got very orange, beautiful colors. You can see this calendula is kind of faded because it's dried, and I probably had it for a couple of years, so it's, I probably should change it. But anyway, calendula is also an incredible soother of the skin. There is no harm in adding that into our concoction, so our infusion. So I'm gonna just do that just a tiny bit, just a pinch. So we're just gonna put that in here and stir it in again. So just to combine it. So we basically are making a calendula and dandelion flower infusion. Okay, sorry, not infusion, but this is an oil infusion. Okay, so now how simple is that, right? And if you want to turn that into a salve, this is an example. For example, this is my skin repair salve that I make myself. I label it and put a date. I made this on the 1st of April, and so this is a salve, right? You can see the consistency is different. It's much thicker as compared to an oil, but the oil is the base of it. And what would happen then is how you turn it into a salve. You basically melt a bit of wax oil, right? Just a tiny bit, and then you combine it with the oil that you had infused 2 days ago, and then that way it becomes a salve. And so that's just easier to spread versus working with an oil, which can get really messy really quickly. Okay, so let's see how we're doing with any questions. I've got my dear colleague Jennifer helping us today. Belle is asking, I heard it's not good for people with Crohn's disease. What are we referring to in terms of the dandelion? Yeah, so like I mentioned, some people like with SIBO and some IBS issues. So that points, Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease. And really, most people everybody who's got Crohn's disease also has a lot of digestive problems. Digestion, immune system starts in digestion. So I would not recommend it, probably, especially if you know you have an issue. But for most people, actually, dandelion is very beneficial. The biggest problem is inulin. And like I mentioned in the beginning, is whether you can actually digest the inulin or not. And it is a form of a sugar that some people get really bloated. So if that's you, just don't do it. But you can use it topically, nevertheless. So the other, let's talk about the other application of this beautiful, the name of the book. The name of the book is Herbs for Balance. And Jen is going to post the page where you guys can get the program for $37. In case you're coming in late, we're doing a clearance sale of our Herbs for Balance program that instead of for $297, you can get it for $37. That includes the entire online access, and you can get the book with 140 recipes and the poster that I was showing earlier. That is even more. Even more. Okay, that's a poster that comes with the program as well. Okay, so the other thing I would love to talk to you about is, so we've covered dandelion flower. We can use that in salads. We can make an oil infusion. So that's 2 applications. Let's talk about the dandelion leaf. It's right in here. I picked it up from the garden. Now, when you're picking your dandelion, make sure that number 1 is a place that has not been sprayed with any pesticides, herbicides. It's organic soil. If you're out in nature, you don't want to be picking dandelion that's right by the side of the road, just because you don't want to have dandelion that a dog had peed on, right? Or a cat peed on. So get it off a little bit off to the side. And so the leaf is actually quite fantastic. The leaves are, some of you might have seen dandelion leaves sold in supermarkets. So they are typically a lot bigger, and they are not as bitter as their wild counterparts. But with that comes a lot more nutritional potency in here. So one of the things I would love to encourage you to do is to consider adding your dandelion leaves into your salads. It's really as simple as taking a whole bunch, maybe combine it with other greens such as arugula, or it's beginning to boil, so I'm just gonna reduce the heat right away. We don't want it to, you know, I will tell you, the first time I made this oil infusion with dandelions many years ago, they came out basically like fritters. I deep fried the damn thing. So we don't want that to happen. So just really go gentle and slow. Just a little bit of heat will do the work. So back to dandelion leaf, chop it up, put it in your salad. Is, you know, and one of the salads that we have in the book here is the Tuscan for a full meal. And ready to receive the food and then extract the most out of the nutrition, the food you're going to be eating. So the Italians, what they would do is they take a whole bunch of dandelions. Let me just show you. This is like really kind of dirty here because it's right up from my garden, you guys. It's not from a nice supermarket. So not the prettiest presentation, but I want to just drive a point. Let me actually do this so the soil is off. Okay, that's all you do, you guys. Just chop it up and put it together with your mustard greens, or if you're using lettuce. I don't like lettuce because it's nutritionally pretty void. You know, I would use arugula because I love arugula, right? Or, you know, any other greens that would, and then put an orange to it as well. Like if you're finding this is a little bit too bitter, too intimidating, add in an orange to your salad, add the orange zest to it, right? A bit of olive oil and salt, and just call it a day. It's just an absolutely wonderful salad. So in case you are joining in late, dandelion is incredibly powerful when it comes to helping you detoxify your kidneys. That's especially for the leaves. In French, dandelion is called pissenlit, which means to piss, right? And it is a diuretic. So in case you're on any medications that diuretic herbs are contraindicated, then please don't incorporate too much of the dandelion. So that's, you know, that's in salads. The other thing you could do with the dandelion leaves is saute it. You know, like sometimes when I run out of ideas, I'll just take the leaves, chop them up, put them in a pan with some olive oil, a bit of salt and lemon juice, right? And you know, and basically saute them. And that's really just really as simple as that. They can be incorporated. So let's do a quick recap. So we've got dandelion flower salads. We can put in the salads. We can put the dandelion flowers, make an oil infusion out of them, and that's what's going on the stove here. We can make a dandelion leaves. We can put them. So there's a third application. We can put dandelion leaves in a salad. We can put we can saute the dandelion leaves. And the third application for dandelion leaf is that you can make a very simple tea out of it. So that's something I'm going to show you here today. So this is really a favorite. Like whenever, you know, I have friends over, we've had a bit too much to eat. One of the cool things to do is to grab some dandelion from your garden and chop it up. This is probably a little bit too much for one application, for one serving, but you can kind of figure out what works for you. I'll put a little bit of lemon to it. Can we do a zoom in on that? And I'm putting it with the skin because we want the skin. And then I'm gonna do some ginger because ginger is such a great herb also for stimulating your digestion, warming it up. You guys, we want warm up our digestion. Don't drink cold drinks before a huge meal because cold closes up your digestion. You're not digesting the food very well. You're not extracting. Only when your stomach is warm, that's when it can function at its optimal and produces all the digestive juices. All right, so you just do this, cover it for a few minutes, and then, you know, with a touch of honey, I got some local beautiful honey here. With a touch of honey, just put that in, not too much, because you don't want too much sugar, and that's gonna be your digestive, you know, tea for the day, right? Just a simple application like that. So So that's what you can do with dandelion leaf. If you have any other suggestions for us on how to use dandelion leaf, please do let us know, because I always love to learn new things, and I always learn new things from you guys as well. So the other thing I want to talk about is something that dandelion root, I think, is the most known for. A lot of people know that dandelion root is a huge liver detoxifier, and that is very true. It is. Now, I mentioned in the beginning, I was not able to dig out the dandelion root from my garden because it's not even a garden. Like, it's just right outside. It's a really hard, it's like rocky soil. And so I wasn't able to do that. And before I forget, you know how, I think, especially this is an American thing, Americans are obsessed about beautiful lawns. And so we sprayed a lot of chemicals on the lawn for it to look perfect. Well, the bad side about this, and I've written articles about that, is the glyphosates that are found in all the sprays, the ones that Monsanto manufactures, is really hugely toxic. And I pulled out research from linking everything to autoimmunity, to your kids getting sick, your animals getting sick, right? So, and then the obsession of getting rid of all the dandelions. Well, here's a fascinating thing I have found out when I was doing the research for the article I wrote about glyphosates, is that dandelions a lot of times show up in soil that's very depleted. When I think about it, when I picked up dandelions from around my house, it's in a very arid and not very fertile parts of the property. And did you know that dandelions actually refertilize your soil? And that is just so beautiful. Like, they bring the nutrients back into the soil in places that are arid or are undernourished. And so in many ways, it's actually a blessing to have them in your garden, because they bring the nutrition back into your soil, into your lawns. Okay, so let's talk about dandelion root. Like I said, I have a root that's already been roasted. That's why the color is darker, right? I always label my stuff, not terribly sexy, but you know, it does the job. It tells me what it is. So it's roasted dandelion. Now, roasted dandelion is oftentimes used as a replacement in a lot of coffee drinks, and that's really one great application. So that's the first thing I want to highlight for you, so that's going to be our application number 6, is to make a dandelion root tea. So you can make the infusion that we had made just now. If we put the dandelion root in here, it's not going to be probably as effective, because the root needs a little bit more what we call a decoction. A decoction means that you put that in the water, so like a pot like this, for example, and you want it to be in the water, simmering that for about 20 minutes at least, and that's the time to extract all the goodness out of the dandelion. So I'm not gonna make this today, but again, this is an amazing digestive, and this is, you know, we have a lot of other decoction ideas here for you. You can combine that with burdock, you can combine that with licorice, for example, which is, you know, a lot of people know licorice and take licorice supplements for when you have, for example, adrenal issues, or it's perceived as adrenal issues, but actually licorice does a lot more than that. So that's one application. The other one I want to highlight to you, so this is going to be our number 8 application, is that in the Herbs for Balance book, I teach how to basically pimp out your honey and your apple cider vinegar. I mean, many of you here are using already, right? Apple cider vinegar, or you use honey, right? In whatever application. So why not infuse them with some incredible goodness and just, you know, bring so much more value to them, right? And so we have a whole recipe for apple cider vinegar or vinegar infusions. And one of them is, for example, all you have to do is take things like dandelion. You can take dandelion root, you can use dandelion leaves and flowers. You can put in a whole lemon, you can put a whole orange into this and make a apple cider infusion. In fact, all my apple ciders that I use, you know, on my counter whenever I put on salads, added to meals, I always infuse with a lot of different herbs. This is one herb to infuse it with. And it's also, nothing stops you from making an infusion with honey. Like if you want to learn how to do honey infusions with whether it's dandelion root. So it's, you know, and that's one of my actually favorite things to do. It was when you're playing off the flavor contrast, right, between two ingredients. So honey being obviously sweet, and then dandelion being very bitter, and kind of earthy, right? And so it just gives you like that complexity of flavors, which I think is absolutely wonderful. We have a women's vitality honey in the book. Let me just share with you, just see if I can find it right now. I labeled some things in here. I wanted to show you. Yeah, maybe I don't have, sorry, I thought I labeled it, but I didn't. So there is a honey, basically women's vitality honey. So it shows you what herbs to infuse it with. It includes dandelion root, and it's got peony in it. It's got some probably dong quai in it, right? Which a lot of women do for hot flashes. And you can just, and then we teach you how to do that. It's really as simple, it's a very similar technique to this. When you put honey, you put the herbs, you put the honey in, put it on the stove, simmer it for a while, and then making an infusion of the honey with all these herbs. It's actually pretty amazing. So let me just do a quick recap. So we talked about dandelion flower in salads. Number 2, making dandelion flower oil infusion. That's what's happening on the stove right now. Number 3 is we were making dandelion tea together. So that's right in here, and you can strain it in just in about 5 minutes. You can put dandelion leaf in salads. And then application number 5 is sautéing the leaves. You have dandelion root, putting that, so that's number 6, making a tea out of that, infusing honey, so that's number 7, infusing apple cider vinegar with that, so that's application number 8, right? How many incredible things it can be done just with this crazy weed that grows in most of backyards. So let me just show you, as we are talking, I want to just show you how the flowers have, it's already getting too hot, so I need to reduce the heat. So I push it down to 1. So can you see how all of that has withered, right? And it's kind of hot, so I'm just gonna do this. You see how it's a lot better covered now, right? So like I was mentioning earlier, always put a little bit more flowers to it because it's gonna wither and get reduced in volume. But we definitely want to keep it on, keeping it on 1. And I'm gonna keep a watchful eye on this to make sure the oil doesn't overcook. Like I said, we don't want fritters. So, just to give you a sense of context, the reason why I created this program, Herbs for Balance, and with all the recipes of how to use herbs in culinarily, but also topically, is because I found like there's a lot of recipes out there on the internet, but a lot of them have either are just wrong, they don't work. A lot of times I've made shampoos from those recipes, it just didn't work, and I've wasted so much of ingredients. And sometimes it's just written by people who are not professionals, and it's just kind of blah, So I want to give you an example. For instance, that lip gloss that I'm wearing right now, this comes from a recipe right here from the book. So we have a lip gloss recipe and lipsticks. So I'm just pulling out a few. PMS salve. This is somewhat similar to what I was showing you earlier on the salve, and that the PMS salve contains things like clary sage, lavender, thyme essential oil, bergamot essential oil, coconut oil, and beeswax. We've got things like air fresheners. Hey, you guys, if you're still using those commercial air fresheners at home, you're buying that from Glade or whatever, please get rid of that. That stuff is so toxic. The fastest way to get into your brain is through inhalation, right? Like, I don't snort cocaine, but I have seen people who do it and they get effect just like in 2 minutes, they are a different person. So, so air fresheners, you can make it yourself and make it really healthy using essential oils. We also have a recipe for all-purpose cleaner, so you don't have to spend money on toilet one cleaner, and your sink is another cleaner, and your counter is another cleaner. That is all BS. It's all marketing stuff. You can just make your own cleaner that is very effective. And then, so this is the one. I have it right here. This is the female vitality honey that I was telling you about. So this really is to really support women's health. So we're using things like shatavari root powder, dong quai, peony root, powdered damiana leaves, and rose, right? And I'll tell you, that honey is just amazing. There's a lot of different skincare applications here as well. So all of that is going for $37, including that poster in case you're coming late. I've got that poster on my wall. It shows you, like, for example, if you have a thyroid conditions, you got PMS, you got menopause, what are the herbs and foods that you can bring in order to, to support your body. So never underestimate herbs. I hope you have a new appreciation for herbs from just having this little conversation here, this demo today. I hope this is helpful. And let me go over to take a look at what questions do we have? Fiona Crawford is saying, I add the leaf to my morning smoothies, dandelion leaf. Very nice. Yes, great. Fiona is asking, does the root have to be roasted or can it be used fresh? Absolutely, it can be used fresh as well. There's a different flavor to it. Obviously, I mean, this has got a very smoky sort of chocolate-like, coffee-like flavor to it, right? That's why it's used as a substitute. The one that is fresh is definitely going to be much more sort of earthy and bitter to it. Can I infuse red clover and dandelion apple cider vinegar? Emma is asking. Absolutely, yes. In fact, we're going to do another video after this. It's going to be talking about how do you make a red clover and red raspberry leaf infusion. And I want to just show you how to make a proper herbally strong, medicinally strong, potent infusion, because using tea bags is completely useless, and I'm going to talk about this in the next video. So it looks like, Jennifer, we are good for questions, right, for this one. So my question for you guys for finishing this video, as we end, I would love to ask you, post and let us know, how are you going to use some of the things you have learned today? What are you going to make? Are you going to make maybe the dandelion oil infusion, or are you going to infuse some of the things to your apple cider vinegar to make it, to jazz it up a little bit? Are you going to sprinkle the petals maybe on your salad? Let us know, what have you learned today, and how is it going to serve you? All right, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.